Hello, my name's Richard Rose, and the excerpt that I am about to read from my short story Solitude was first published in the summer 2022 edition of Personal Bests. Personal Bests is an excellent magazine of short stories published regularly and edited by the excellent David Gardner. It always contains an eclectic collection of interesting and often challenging short stories, and I feel very privileged to have had Solitude published in that edition. The old man lived alone. For 14 years, his home had been a steel-hulled narrowboat based on the Grand Union Canal north of London. Many who passed his way, making progress at a leisurely pace along the grey-green waters, did so simply to gain respite from their busy city lives. But for the old man, his 60-foot boat was a 52-week-a-year affair, a place where all his possessions were to be found, and whatever little business that passed his way could be easily transacted. When younger, he might have been described as gregarious, but now the old man preferred solitude. Unlike most dwellings, a small boat, purpose-built for life on an English canal, came with certain advantages. Whenever the mood took him or he tired of a particular location, the old man could untie from his moorings and move to a new space. A change of view, quieter situation, or one that might afford the convenience of local shops or other facilities, these were among the incentives that from time to time encouraged him to cruise slowly along the waterways. In 14 years, he had found that his needs were few, and although there had been times when he had ventured to other parts of the canal system, cruising as far as Birmingham, Chester, and Oxford, of late he had been content to narrow his range. Travelling single-handed, at first seen as a challenge and a means of asserting independence, had always proven to be hard work. And today he found pleasure in shorter excursions, undertaken more from necessity than as a means of exploration. His boat was simply equipped, but provided adequately for his needs: a comfortable berth, a shower and a lavatory, a small galley, and an area where he could take his ease with a book, or by listening to the radio, allowed him to live a quiet, but to his mind, well-fulfilled existence. The radio, invariably tuned to BBC Radio 3, was his greatest source of pleasure and contemplation, and was supplemented by his lifelong love of the great Russian poets, Mandelstam, Pushkin, Akhmatova, Dereva, and his much-favoured Secheva. The old man could never have countenanced a home without books, and of the 50 or so that made up his permanent on-board library, more than half consisted of anthologies of the works of these and other Russian literary masters. Life on the Grand Union Canal was quiet, and this exactly matched the old man's desires. Indeed, one of the few occurrences that was sure to prompt a change of location was when a noisy party of boaters moored close to his position and stayed for more than a single night. Whenever this situation arose, without complaint, he would cast off from the towpath and move along until he located what he felt sure would be a more satisfactory mooring. During the winter months, such occasions were far less frequent, as the holiday boat traffic fell quiet, and many of the private boat owners closed down their craft and awaited warmer months. For the past month, the old man had experienced hardly any disruption. Settled at a quiet country location, less than 20 minutes walk from shops on the edge of Milton Keynes that provided for all his needs, and only 10 minutes from a water point from where he could fill his tanks every few days, he had decided to remain close to this area until the arrival of spring. Content in the belief that he was likely to pass the remaining months of the winter undisturbed, the old man fell comfortably into a routine of completing his daily chores, cooking meals, taking a walk along the towpath, reading his beloved poets, and settling with a glass of whisky to enjoy the evening concerts provided courtesy of the BBC. In recent weeks, little had happened to disturb his life's familiar pattern. He particularly relished the early mornings, where often a mist hung over the water, distorting the shapes of the trees, muffling the calls of the moorhens and the crank of a local heron. These mornings were often cold, but reminded him of his youth, when on his father's farm he would rise early to milk the cows and set the hens free from their overnight coop, where they had been secured against the predation of foxes. This was his time for quiet contemplation, his hands cupped around a mug of steaming black coffee, his senses awake to every sight, smell and sound that heralded the dawning of a new day. Standing at the stern of the boat, he would lean back against the cabin wall, breathing deeply to gauge the nature of the morning. Today, having risen early, he sensed that the morning was considerably warmer than of late, an early harbinger of spring perhaps. Having prepared his coffee and located a couple of biscuits, the old man slipped the bolts that secured the doors at the rear of the boat and mounted the steps to the stern deck. The sun as yet had not risen sufficiently above the horizon to dispel the heavy dew that dampened the metal surfaces of the boat, which rolled slightly as he shifted his weight at the top of the steps. Taking a couple of exaggerated breaths, the old man surveyed the scene and noted with satisfaction the stillness and the quiet that made such mornings precious to him. Normally an observant man, one who quickly assessed the scene immediately around his location, he was all at once taken aback when he realized that he had failed to note a small, transparent plastic bag hanging from the tiller, no more than 3 feet from where he was standing. Stepping forward, he grasped the bag, releasing it from its position in order to examine its contents. The bag had been carefully affixed to the tiller, and whoever had posted it in place must have done so quietly, and presumably after he had fallen asleep the previous evening. Had this not been the case, he felt sure that he would have detected the presence of an intruder at the stern of his vessel. On examining the contents of the bag, he discovered only a single sealed manila envelope, devoid of any inscription, though he surmised that it must have been placed where he would be sure to find it. Pouring the final dregs of his coffee overboard, the old man turned and descended the steps and made his way forward to where he could sit at his table and investigate this unexpected object further. If you want to know what happened next, I suggest you read a copy of Personal Bests. Thank you once more to David Gardner for his excellent work as editor. Goodbye.